old address to their new address and give them another address. So an address, you could just call it a char, or, you get the idea though. It's basically, if you have a char that is a number, you can't do any computation to it. It's just what you put in is what you get out. And I believe that is it for this. Well, actually, that tells you what all of these are. So basically, I want to tell you really quick before I end this tutorial how to declare each variable. So if you want to declare an integer, what you do is you first say the data type, so it's an integer, and then you give it a name for the variable. So let's say Susie, okay? Okay, so now let's say Susie, let's do a double. Well, you could either do a float or a double, but let's just say double, and let's just say wage, okay? And actually, you know what? I want to lowercase this. Let's just say wage per hour. Now, typically, if you have multiple words in your variable names, you want to write them out like this. This is called Camel Case, because the first letter, not including the first word, the first letter of every word after here on out is capitalized. That's why it's called Camel Case, because it kind of goes up and down and up and down. Okay, so we have wage per hour, and let's write a char, and let's say that she has an apartment, and her apartments are called A, B, and C. So apartment, letter. Okay. So basically, now what we want to do is set values to Susie, wage per hour, and apartment letter. Just to recap, Susie, actually, you know what? Let's write Susie age. Okay, there we go. So her age, you can't be, well, you can be 2.5, but for right now, we'll say Susie's an older lady. She doesn't do halves. She's either one or the other. She's 84 until midnight hits on her birthday, or whatever the case is. Anyways, makes her feel younger. So now we need to assign values. We need to say, okay, Susie's age. So what you would do is you write Susie age, and this compiler is nice because it gives you a little drop down, so you keep things straight. So Susie age, and we want to set it equal to, let's say she's 74 years old, okay? Well, this is a statement, so you want to end the statement just like all of these. These are all separate statements. Okay? So Susie's age is 74, okay? And when you use the equal sign, what it does is it takes everything to the right and it sets it equal and reassigns the variable on the left. So basically, if Susie's age was 26 already, and we said, okay, it's 74, it's going to take this 74 and it's going to overwrite, okay? Unless we added it, but what we're doing is we're just setting it equal. So that's just kind of like, you're moving something and you overwrite it. Okay, so now let's say her wage per hour. If you hit tab, it'll automatically fill it in for you. So her wage per hour, let's say, well, she's pretty old. Let's say she makes $18.65 an hour. Okay, and we use a double because it contains a decimal. Okay, you could use a floating point here, like I said earlier, but a double is fine. I always use doubles myself. So now we're going to go to apartment. Oops, I cannot spell. Apartment letter equals. Remember, I said you have to have the single quotes around it, so we'll say she's in apartment C, okay? Put your semicolon to end that statement. So now what we did, just to recap, we assigned 74 to her age, 1865 to her wage per hour, and she is in apartment C, and you have to put the single quotes because it's a character. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to output this information to the screen, okay, because it's stored in the memory, but now we want to retrieve the memory. So, as you may have noticed, I use include IOStream up here. That just means input from the keyboard and then output to the screen, okay? So we're going to use our cout statement and use our insertion operator. That way we can insert stuff. Basically, the insertion operator says, okay, display this stuff on cout. Basically, treat cout kind of like your screen. So put this to your screen. Okay, so we're going to just put in some text right now, and this is just going to label our information. So we're going to say Susie is. We're going to close our string or our sentence or beginning. It's not a full sentence, but we want to put another insertion operator. Susie is. Okay, now we want to write her age. Susie age. Okay, and what this will do, we don't have to put any kind of quotes around it or anything because it's a variable. C++ will automatically know it's a variable or try to see if it's a variable because there's no quotes. So now we want to say Susie is space. That's why I put that little extra space in there. Otherwise, it would put the number right after. You know, so if she's 74, so it would put like 74 next to it. So I put that space just for readability. So she is blah 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 74 years old. Okay. Now we gotta close that, and I'm gonna go ahead and end this line. Okay, so Susie is, and then the variable is this many years old, and we said 74 is Susie's age is equal to 74. So 74 will be substituted in here. So Susie is 74 years old. Okay, let's go ahead and compile that. I just want to show you that runs. I wrote Sue's age. Oops, sorry about that. All right, let's go ahead and compile. No errors. Come on, no errors. There we go. All right, so Susie is 74 years old. Okay, and you can see that it matches right here. Susie is, and then 74 years old. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close out of this. Okay, so now we have her age, and now we want to write another statement. So basically, we want to write C out because we're outputting to the screen. We're going to write Susie is, and, or you know what, Susie earns insertion operators because we're moving from this command, we're moving to a fresh command, a new command. Let's have wage per hour. Okay. And then, you know what we can do for extra formatting, because it's just going to spit out 18.65. It doesn't know that it's a dollar. We need to put in the $ ourselves. So we have a space for readability, and then this number is going to be printed right after because we're not putting a space right here. It's going to be right after. So she earns this much money, wage per hour. We're going to write /hour, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and end that line. Okay, so Susie earns, and then whatever the wage is per hour, and we know up here that wage is equal to $18.65. Okay, so let's go ahead and compile this. Okay. Okay, so Susie earns 18.65 per hour. You know what? Just to make it look a little better, we're going to take out that space right there just so the /hour is right after. So Susie earns 18.65 per hour. Okay, good to go. So now we need to say what apartment letter she's in. So C out. Susie lives in apartment, and we'll put it like this, and we'll write apartment letter, and then we're going to go ahead and put a period after it because that just makes sense because it's kind of more of a sentence. Actually, we'll put a period here too. So just to keep it consistent, she's this many years old, end sentence. She's blah blah, she earns blah blah blah, end sentence. Susie lives in apartment, blah blah blah. Let's end it, okay? And now we want to end our line and use another insertion operator because we're done with this string command. Okay? So now let's go ahead and compile and run this. Okay, so Susie lives in apartment C. Good. Okay, so as you can see, we have all of these variables. We set them equal to different things. Well, first, right here, we declared them, and which means we created the variables, and we already talked about what each type means. And then right here, we set the variables equal to values. Okay, and then here in this group right here, we outputted the values to the screen. Now I want to show you one more thing that you may run into. So say you want to have multiple letters. For the time being, what we're going to do is we're going to call that string, the string data type, and let's just say, let's say phone number, okay? Basically, a string, a char allows you to do one letter only. A string will let you do as many letters as you would like. So a phone number, you're never going to add a phone number to another phone number. That would just be nonsense. That would be someone else's phone number. That has no, it just doesn't matter. So let's say I'm going to take out these spaces right here just so it all fits on one screen, but I'll keep this stuff grouped. Okay, well, I'll leave that space, whatever. Okay, so let's say right here, phone number is equal to, now, just like over here, this is a string of characters, we're going to use the double quotes because it means it's a sentence. So single quotes means it's just one letter. Double quotes means it's a string and it has multiple letters, like a sentence or anything. So phone number is, let's just say 810-999-264 or 2345. Okay. So her phone number equals this. Now let's spit out our phone number. So Susie can be called or reached at at phone number. Okay, and I'm going to end that line. So basically what's going to happen is it's treating all of these numbers as text, and it's just going to spit it in as text. Okay, so let's go ahead and go up here and build and run. No errors. And Susie can be reached at, 810-999-2345. Okay, so you get the idea. Them are the four main variable types. Now there are more. There's ways that you can, because I told you that range on integer, it's 2.1 billion negative to positive. Well, there's a way you can make that larger and all of that. But for right now, you'll be good. Just stick with these. If you need bigger numbers, you can use double or char, whatever. You get the idea though. So thanks for watching this tutorial and enjoy the rest of them.